Continuing on with the already previously started school board meeting at 7:15. We're at item 3B, Pledge of Allegiance. Tracy, would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome. At item 4, consent agenda, could I get a motion to approve consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
A second.
Is there anything in consent agenda that needs separate consideration or has separate questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of consent agenda as presented say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Item 5, student representation. Do we have any tonight? Doesn't look like it. Unless somebody else would want to come up here and give a report of what's going on in the school. Anyone? Form a line. All right. Going on to item 6, public forum. It's the opportunity for anyone from the public to bring anything to the school board's attention. Going once, twice. Geez, a big crowd like this and no one wants to talk to us. Going on to item 7, superintendent's report. Dr. Thompson.
Okay, I have a number of items. First, I'd like to introduce Mr. Josh Griffey, who is our new Baylane Elementary Associate Principal, and so he's here to introduce himself to the community and all the audience members here. So come on up, Josh, and say a few words, and if you'd like to introduce your wife, we'd love to meet her.
Do I face you guys? Do I face this way?
Whatever you're most comfortable with.
Any kiddos going to be at Baylane Elementary next year?
Looking at...
No.
Look at the littlest ones. No? Okay, that's okay. That's okay. So my name is Joshua Griffey. I'm coming from the Wauwatosa School District. I've served as a special education teacher for 9 years, and I'm graduating this May, 2 weeks actually, with my second master's degree in administrative leadership and my principal and director of instruction license. I'm just so grateful and thankful for this opportunity. I take my work very seriously. It's a privilege and a responsibility that I live in all facets of my life. So thank you. I will work hard. I will serve this community well, and I will make sure that Baylane Elementary is a great place to be a kid and a great place to be an adult. So thank you, everybody. I'm excited to be part of the school district.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, the next item on my list is just to recognize our staff, staff from this current year who actually through a survey process was honored last Friday as a top workplace in the Milwaukee metro area. We're pleased to now have the second year in a row of being recognized. So that is this award. So we have a top workplace award, so I'll just pass it around for the board to view. Last year we received a special award. There are about 150 businesses that are recognized during this event, and they have about 13 special awards. So of that 150, there are 13 awards that are given to communities, to businesses that are standout. Last year we received the most meaningfulness award. So essentially our staff indicated that they come to work every day and have a meaningful job to conduct. And so that was last year. This year we were surprised with another standout honor, and we received the top reward for new ideas. And so essentially what our employees have indicated is that as an organization, we welcome new ideas and we embrace those. So congratulations to Muskego Norway School District. We couldn't do it without a community who's open to new ideas and supporting employees and knowing that that is a very important aspect of our organization, but also for a wonderful and very supportive board. So again, this is honoring our staff, our community, and our board members. So thank you very much. We shared the recognition with our staff with a video, which the link is in the board doc. So if anybody's interested at home to watch the video that we created for our staff, as well as a postcard that indicates thank you for loving what you do, believing it matters, and making a difference. And so this is actually for Lisa Warwick and Dean Strom, and then all other board members. You have it in your mailbox, along with the insert that came out in the Milwaukee Journal on Sunday that ranks Muskego, Norway 6th out of the large companies category. So we're very proud of it. It's very important that we have high staff engagement, and to be recognized like this is just an honor, and it's wonderful that all of our staff have that opportunity to be recognized that way. So thank you for allowing me to brag a little bit on that. So now we have some wonderful recognitions for students. We're going to recognize our gold medalists for forensics first, and then we have FBLA members who qualify for nationals. So we'll do forensics first, and then I'll come back for this one. So if we could have the forensics students come on up. Come all the way over here.
Just kind of make a circle.
Yeah, that's perfect.
So I'm going to apologize to everyone right now who has a name with more than 3 letters in it. So what we have is certificates from the board. It's I'll read the first certificate. They're pretty much the same with the exception of categories on all of them, but I'm going to read the first one, and then after that I'll just call each of your names and mispronounce them. So we will start with...
Hamza.
Yeah, the last name.
Oh.
Siddiqui.
Siddiqui, all right.
Yeah.
See, if I don't say it, I can't mispronounce it. Certificate of Appreciation. The School Board of the Muskego, Norway School District hereby commends Hamza for his, how do you say it? Hamza, sorry, for his presentation in the Wisconsin High School Forensics Association 2018 tournament. Through his performance, he earned the WHSFA Gold Medal Award for his category extraneous speaking. Through his achievement, he has brought honor not only to himself and his family, but to Muskego, Norway schools and community. The school board congratulates and wishes him success in his future academic and career endeavors, and it's signed by all the board officers. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Julia Renglinger, and her award, she got a gold medal for Ferraro. Joshua Zhang, and he got a gold for Moments in History. Congratulations. Rebecca Herbert, she got a gold medal in informative speaking. Congratulations. Melanie Switchkowski. They had it written phonetically and I still got it. She got a gold for play acting. Adam Switchkowski, and he got a gold for play acting as well. Anna Schmidbauer? Play acting. Glenn Tolman? Congratulations. Elizabeth Catania. And and she was got a gold for acting as well. Isabella Parr, same award. Congratulations. Gloria Damson, same award. Congratulations. Michelangelo Lappin.
Oh, Michaela Lappin, she's not here tonight.
All right. Abigail
Tiedemann. Yeah, she's not here tonight.
All right.
Okay, so we got everybody. Oh, everybody has a certificate.
Congratulations. Try to make a couple rows.
Did you want to say anything after we take a picture?
Do we all fit?
Yes.
Ready? 1, 2, 3, and then stay. True.
Okay.
Congratulations. Great job.
Take your official name.
Thanks. Good memories, though.
Okay, Joe, why don't you tell us a little bit about your journey?
This honestly was a record-breaking year, not in terms of just gold medalists this year, 13 gold medalists, but also a record-breaking year in terms of turnout. This is the largest turnout we've had for the team this year since the early 2000s. So we are very happy, Emily, Leanne, myself, with just the results of the team this year. So we couldn't be prouder. So thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Now we will recognize the FBLA national qualifiers. So if you want to come up and also just kind of stand in a shape. Stephanie and Jeff, did you want to say something before we get started or after? Or not at all?
Stephanie would love to say something.
Good evening. We're just thrilled to be able to continue our FBLA program, and we had over 100 members join our chapter this year. These young ladies and gentlemen represent some of our finest who did really, really well and are looking forward to traveling to Baltimore, Maryland this summer to compete at the national level.
Thank you for your support and guidance. Okay.
So we have certificates for you as well, and I'll read it. Certificate of Appreciation. The School Board of the Muskegon Norway School District hereby commends Madeline Becker. I got that right, didn't I? All right. For participating in the April 2018 Future Business Leaders of America State Leadership Conference, where she qualified to advance to national competition and earning the Business Achievement Award America level for her presentation of the topic American Enterprise Project. Through this achievement, Madeline has demonstrated exceptional leadership and the ability to pursue a promising career in business. She has brought honor not only to herself and her family, but to the Muskegon Norway schools and community as well. The Muskegon Norway School Board wishes Madeline success in her future educational and career endeavors, and it's signed this date and signed by the officers of the school board. Congratulations. And Jenna Gaglione, and she got an award for 3D animation. Caitlin Foley, and 3D animation as well. Oh, this one I'm going to screw up. Alexandria Petropolsky. Leah Wenzel, and hers was for word processing. Congratulations. Elvis Arsene? Sorry, for virtual business management. Congratulations. Mitchell Salatine for virtual business management. Congratulations. Lawrence Hateman, virtual business management. Jacob Schutte for partnership with business. Connor Smith for graphic design. And Riley Smith for graphic design.
So you can come on up and we'll take a...
So you guys were the sponsor for the dances last week, is that right? I got tons and tons of compliments from like all my neighbors and all the little kids that...
Stephanie and Jeff?
There you go. That's ready? Good. 1, 2, 3. One more time. 1, 2, 3. I got a good one.
Any other? All right. Good job, guys. Good.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bertrand?
Maybe during.
Oh, the little one?
Let's keep doing it. Exactly. Some names that are.
You know, you're all welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting. It's good stuff.
Did you catch a whale? Did you catch a whale? Shark? Did you catch a shark?
Bye, Josh. Bye, Mallory.
Josh, who's that lady with you?
Yeah, I just told Dr. Thompson I failed my first task. She gave me. She said, introduce.
Well, you still can.
You still can.
Yeah, my beautiful wife, man. Quick story, the day, my first interview, it was the day after our 4th anniversary, so, you know, we went out, and I was like, not at all. Like the worst husband ever, but. Well, I'm still gonna make it up to you.
You'll do worse things over the years, trust me. Someone who's been married 26 years, you'll do worse.
That's promising, right? Yes. Thank you, everybody.
All right, the next item is co-curricular. So, I guess Julie, if you want to start us off, and
Sure. So at the last board meeting, the employee handbook was approved, and at the time, we were looking at a different athletic compensation model. And we wanted to actually pull that out of the handbook and just kind of reference it, but not have the actual model itself in the handbook. And we'll be doing the same for the co-curricular compensation model next year. So the board had some feedback about the model and wanted to talk a little bit more about how it was designed, with concerns that years of experience justified an automatic increase. And so I have Ryan and Todd both here today to answer questions, but we wanted to talk a little bit about how the model itself what it takes to actually move through the model. So what we did was we redesigned it to be a little bit closer to the teacher compensation model in that it's not based on years of experience to move through, but rather where you fall as far as initial, professional, and so on and so forth. Within board docs, we also included some very specific information on how you can actually move from one lane to the next and what expectations need to be met. Those transitions occur not just on longevity, but also survey feedback is taken into account, professional development that the coaches themselves go through, the types of goal setting that they do with Ryan and the other administrators within the building, as well as evaluations. And so we wanted to provide you that information and give you the opportunity to ask questions, specifically about the evaluations or about the feedback, if you so had those questions.
Any questions, anyone? Comments?
This will be taking effect this coming year?
Yeah, starting in fall.
So have you sat down basically and figured out about, is the compensation, overall compensation among all the coaches going to be about the same as what we have this year?
It will be, yep, we're building into the personnel budget a little bit more because it does include creating positions, a couple new positions to help support, like for instance in track, help support the numbers that have grown in that program, and also to even out basketball as well.
Okay, so is there a substantial increase or just a couple percentage points?
It's about $40,000
Out of what budget?
out of the co-curricular budget.
Out of what total?
That's a good question. Give me 1 second to look that up for you. Are there any other questions that I can answer while I'm looking that
So
up?
basically you're saying basketball and track were undercompensated in comparison to the duties they were doing? And now we've got a more formalized process?
Not undercompensated, the number of coaching positions
Oh,
were
so-
less than median. So it's an additional position
Okay.
to help create equality across.
And also taking on some of the positions that were supported by booster clubs, those are now folded into.
Correct.
They're all our employees.
Well, these boosters do other things.
Exactly.
So are we, so the ones that aren't, did you get your answer question?
Yes.
So the ones that aren't
I'm going to ask.
listed, do we still have the opportunity, or do the teams still have the opportunities for like registered volunteers that are coaches that are unpaid, or how's that moving forward?
There's always the opportunity for registered volunteers, but they have to act in a volunteer position. It can't be a paid position that the district offers.
Okay.
So there's always, you can always support, the teams, but when we pay for those positions, that's where we have to be cautious for Title IX.
So, looking under like item 3, baseball, softball, soccer, volleyball, and gymnastics. So each of those 5 sports have a head varsity coach, assistant varsity coach, head JV, no assistant JV, head 9th grade level coach.
Correct.
Okay.
What does the base on the bottom line of that grid indicate?
Changed.
Yeah, it's just showing the change, the increase in pay that you would get from moving from one to the other. So the base is just, they would start at the base pay, which is shown above that, and then to move from one to the other, how much of an increase that is.
I get you.
Total budget, I'm sorry,
I see how it
$240,000.
works, okay.
So is the head 9th grade also JV 2?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Can you explain that on item 1, what that MSAD? I don't understand that.
Middle school.
Middle school athletic directors.
Middle school athletic directors. So, can you just walk me through that? So then football, hockey, so then if you're a middle school AD, so we have one for each of the schools? So Lake Danoon and soon to be Muskego Lead Lake. So they're put into I don't follow what so where are they on here?
Would they be like the head varsity?
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay.
so they would start out at the head varsity, each of them, and they would just progress through that? Okay.
Is there an assistant middle school athletic director? Okay, so
No,
there's just
they're
one position.
responsible. They're
Okay.
responsible for all co-curricular, all activities at each of the middle schools.
So jumping back to the criteria for, what moves you into these? You said that was on here, am I missing it on board docs or?
As far as professional development, goal setting,
Surveys,
those items,
yeah.
the survey feedback,
Mhm.
yeah, those are just listed in here. If you want specifics, I have Todd and Ryan here to talk about what each of those would entail.
Okay. Want to talk about those?
Of course.
Sure.
He loves to be in front of microphones, so.
I've seen him do karaoke, so.
So, I mean, a lot of it's what I presented to the board in March, right? So we talked about gathering survey data from our students, the direct constituents that we serve, going through an evaluative type process at the culmination of a period of time, whatever that might be. So it's very similar to teachers when we go supportive and summative, am I saying that right? Summary, so really a couple of years on, or the exact number of years, let's just say two years on summary where we gather feedback, we do walkthrough, observations, we would do goal setting at the end of every year, very similar to what we do with our teachers, and then that maybe it's the third year, maybe it's not. We would go into more of a summation of what is their body of work over a 3-year period or about a 3-year period. Would be very similar to how we evaluate our teachers and gathering artifacts and are we meeting our goals, are we moving forward, what does our feedback say from our surveys, are we using that feedback to drive professional growth and move forward. That's kind of how the process would work. We tried to really model what do we hold our other staff to, other professional staff, and build that into the co-curriculars. Anything on this?
It really was modeled after the same approach to the teacher evaluation, that it's not necessarily just a guarantee based on years. There's performance criteria and goal setting that we think is essential to that.
Are they weighted, the different categories, as far as like, does surveys count more or less than one of the other categories versus another category, or do you have a matrix, or how are you doing that?
It's more the summation of the body of the work over the course of the years in terms of what can that coach put together, what artifacts can that coach build, how does that coach interact with their booster club? There could be so many different things. Practice plans is an artifact, just like a lesson plan from a teacher. How are they building technology into their practices? All sorts of different steps, and I think the full body of work in that summer year, gathering that over the maybe 3-year period will probably carry the most weight, and the other 2 years is building to that summation.
One of the phrases he uses that I love is, are we building better kids? And what evidence can a coach in a program really put forth to demonstrate that? The privilege it is to be on a pedestal in front of kids. How are you leveraging that opportunity to help grow kids beyond just what they're showing and demonstrating on the court or on the field? How are we helping our student athletes capitalize and becoming better, well-rounded students through participation in co-curriculars? So lots of different ways to demonstrate that, so we want to be kind of open, especially early on. But that is really the gist behind it. How do they demonstrate that they're capitalizing on that opportunity?
I don't want to monopolize this, so somebody else's questions.
I have several, sorry. Okay, so you were talking about the numbers in track and such. Will there be multiple assistant coaches added to that number, or how do you, because right now it just says, varsity coach, head assistant. So will there be 2 assistants for track? So is that how you're getting down to meet the numbers of the individuals on the track team? To have at least a coach for every 30 participants type of thing? Will there be multiple roles or duplicate roles in that then?
Well, it will be balanced, boys to girls. So if we add one for boys, we're adding one for girls. So I think we added 2 per gender. which was comparable and comparable to all of the Classic 8 and the greater Milwaukee area that we had in. So really, track's a unique beast, but it's a head coach, which could be a hurdler coach, and then it's sprints, distance, pole vault, and shot and disc, all those type of things. So it's kind of hitting those big five and how they structure it and how the head coach sees it fitting, but that's the goal of track and field. But yeah, we got a ton of kids and we don't have enough coaches.
Right. And then do you compensate them for their licensures? So I know the soccer coaches have to have at least a C or D level licensure, and that costs money and time. So do you compensate them for that at all?
So the soccer coaching licensure, like A, B, C, D, E, that's more through the USA Soccer program.
Right, it costs money though.
Yeah, it does. It is not a prerequisite for the WIA coaching. That is more of a soccer piece to move yourself professionally, and it carries a lot of weight in the club world. Every coach in our system has to be either you have licensure in coaching, or you're a certified licensed teacher, or you have to go, if I'm just a non-educator walking in from the community want to coach, I have to get CNLT certification, which is part of the WIA certification.
And that's all being compensated by them? You're not taking on, we're not taking on any of that? Or is that part
Correct, I
of?
believe so, yes.
Okay.
So that would be a great piece of evidence that a coach could bring in. So I'll use the track and field example. You could get certified by the USA Track and Field Association, level 1, 2, or 3, and it adds some political clout behind your name, but it wasn't a prerequisite to coach at the high school level. But it would be a great artifact to present. I took this class. I've developed my skills in this way. I've written a goal around this, how I will utilize this to impact the athletes I'm coaching. So a great example of what we hope can be an artifact.
Right, and two more, sorry.
No, cool.
But,
Please make one.
surveys, I know are given to the students, are they given to the parents at all? And I know that's a beast on its own, but I do feel that it does affect us if parents are taking their kids to other school districts for sports because of whatever experience they had here. So I'm just curious if that's something that you're considering.
Considering, not at this time.
Okay. Lastly, how long is their contracts for? Is it a 3-year deal?
They're 1 year.
1 year.
1 year,
Every
okay. One
contract
season.
is
All
1 year.
right. That's it, thanks.
So I kind of like a more formalized layout like you guys have. It's just when you get to the master, how do we kind of make sure that they're still giving, giving everything they can to the kids? The reason I say that is when I was in high school, we had a football coach who was a legend in 2 states. But by the time I got into his program, he was pretty much out the door. He is asleep and just really not much of a coach by that point. He was ready to retire. How do we keep him motivated to give it all to the kids when they get to the higher levels?
It's a great question. If I can add as well, I would say it's no different than, again, the same model from a teaching standpoint. I don't believe that there is a finished product teacher. If we aren't passionate and committed to continually improving our practice and constantly trying to stay on the front side, what is the best instructional approach? What is the best pedagogy that's out there? If they are really great, there should be a commitment to continuing to be great, because I don't think there's a place where you can arrive in education or athletics where you're done. Kids change, needs change. There's always someone who's on the fringe that we haven't connected with fully, and we have a privilege, I would describe it, to be the person that can make that difference. So I think that's something that we share a philosophy around, trying to set that as the norm in our behavior. So it'd be in the personal goal setting meetings, and whether it be the supporting year, the summer year, where that's just the natural part of every conversation, whether it be with a teacher or a coach.
Thank you.
Two questions. Excuse me, two questions. So, 3 really. Kelly, where's this, do we have to approve this at some point in time?
It's just in our employee handbook as we have a model, so that unless there's issues from the board's perspective of what model we created, which is what you have in front of you, we would just keep coming back into the board's control with it.
Okay, so if we could come back one more time, what I'd like to see is it's difficult for me to really understand, just looking at this, what we paid our coaches last year. Do you know what I mean? So head coach, Category 1 football. It'd be nice to see what they made and how that fits into this initial emerging up to masters. I don't know how you would put that in here, but if you could do that.
So you want the old pay scales essentially.
Yeah.
Okay. That's easy enough to do.
Okay. And one other thing that would be interesting to me is to also see, maybe we could use fall sports, because we already hired, or we will tonight, correct? Approve all the contracts. Did we do that last time, or is it tonight?
This meeting,
It's
we're doing this
tonight.
meeting, but it's only for, it's not all the schools, it's just, I mean, it's not all the sports.
No,
it's
just fall,
Okay,
right.
yeah.
So maybe if they could take fall and show us what, or I suppose it's kind of the same thing I'm asking with what they made last year and what they're making this year. But I guess a question I have is how are you deciding without a lot of information, or at least your 3-year information,
Where's their initial placement?
where their initial placement is? Yeah.
Well, that's just like just what we did with the teacher compensation model. We have to find, because nobody would make less at this point. So if the compensation for any of these positions is laid out as less than what they're currently making, it wouldn't be until the new position was filled or until the coach left that the position would actually drop down into the new salary amount. So nobody would be making less if they, and then we would place them closest to where they are currently based on where they're at years of experience-wise, where they're at with their compensation, that type of thing.
So, for example, and I have no idea what our coaches make, but say our hockey coach that we've had for 15 years was making, I have no idea what the, Coach X was making, but say they were making, $5,200 last year as a head coach. But they've, made it to the state tournament every, the last few years and everything based, not based off of anything. They've had success, everything else. Would you base them into masters right away, just kind of looking at it from a cursory view, or would you start them this first year at the professional level, or maybe one up from that, the advanced, even though you have a feeling without going through a full review that they may actually be a master? Or did you automatically drop them into a master, or,
Just trying to work as close to the dollar amount for fiscal responsibility as we could.
Okay, so if they were, say, at $5,000 and you're not quite sure where they're at, you're going to start them at the professional level, and then after that first year, they'll get reevaluated and put into the right pay.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Other question I have, okay, so this review process, I assume, because I see you at all these things, you're there watching events, you stop in at practices and all that. So I see you at the varsity events. I assume maybe you go to the JV and everything else, but whose responsibility is it to evaluate the lower level coaches? Is that so you evaluate the head coach, and the head coach is responsible for his program, or do you two work together, you and the head coach evaluating the other one, or is it you doing it all?
Yep, as the head coach of the program, I believe they should be the direct driver and professional growth of their coaches within their program. Now, it's me and the head coach really working together to drive that process and continue to grow professional growth in their programs. But I would allow the head coach to be the first one to have those conversations to move those individuals along, but obviously I'll be right there as needed with guiding, helping.
So they have to justify them to, so I'll use baseball as an example, it's my favorite sport to pick on. They've had in the past, they're not there anymore, so I'm not picking anyone that's not here, but like horrible freshman coaches at times. Let's just say that you didn't see the freshman coach, but he keeps on getting pushed forward by the head coach. Does he have to justify that to you, or would you envision that you're going to be watching that or going through surveys, or, I guess I'm just, some of the lower level coaches I don't want to just be brought up because a head coach whose strength is in personality evaluation is bringing through some, I like the kid, he's fun after games or something like that. So.
Yeah, I think the big piece with the lower levels is once we build this walkthrough model where it's efficient, and we can use technology to quickly do it and pop in and pop out and start to gather data on our coaches, it's something where I can do it, but then I can also build in the head coach to take my model and do it on his own, and then we can compare data on that freshman coach or how they do it. But yeah, I'll be guiding. It's just like Principal Irvine guides me in me evaluating the teachers of the department that I oversee. He doesn't do it, but he's really doing it. I mean, he's there shaping and informing how I go about that process. Same type of thing is the way I would see it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And all these questions aren't, we're not aiming at critiquing what you have here, we're trying to get our arms around it, with the exception of Tracy and Terry, because they just started today. This does generate a lot of feedback to the board over the years of the stuff, so this is something, I'm happy to see it, because I've been asking for this for years, and I think it's the right direction. We're just trying to get our arms around this when people ask questions, and be comfortable with it too. I mean, we've got to look at it and say, yeah, that makes sense, because we have to justify it, so.
I didn't ask this during our last discussion, I don't need to know this now, but it would be neat. So the total amount at some point that we're currently paid, all of our coaching staff, and then the total amount that we're paying under this, that'd be the only number I think I'd be interested in, just to see, so I can visualize.
What the budget changes?
Yeah, and what the impact of it is, and I'm not judging either way, that would tell me what the impact of this is, and then I would just go from there, I guess.
And Julie Kelly has that numbers for you at this time.
You do?
I do.
Julie.
I have the new numbers, I apologize. 317,000 was our current budget, and we are looking at 365,000 approximately as the new,
Okay.
with the new positions, and so it's a $47,000 difference. But we can lay that out for you and show you by position.
Okay, so it's 40, okay.
Now, is that $47,000 impact in advancing the activities budget, or is it $47,000 that's going to be absorbed by other changes within the activity, or a combination of the two?
Or fees.
No, we didn't anticipate bringing fees forward as a result of it. But
Through our process this year with our zero-based budgeting, we knew this was an area, this was the first step, and so we budgeted for an increase to
I just want to know,
support,
I'm
yep,
not
to
saying
support
it's
this.
right or wrong, I'm just.
And then the same thing will happen for next year. From the budgeting process, we'll say, this is necessary in order for us to be competitive.
So you'll add that as part of your budget
Yeah.
request for, okay.
Yeah, and that's why we have a balanced budget that we're still working through
Okay.
and working at, yeah.
Thank you.
So you talked about like a 2 or 3 year process of evaluating. This doesn't preclude you from letting a coach that's performed poorly go prior to that 2 or 3 year
We're still on
evaluation.
one-year contract, so anybody can go at any time.
I do appreciate the change. I do like this concept of emerging professional advanced masters. I do like that. It makes more sense to me as why you're getting paid additional funds, because they're performing at a higher level. I do like that.
I've got kind of a related question here. One of the things is we had to absorb some of the assistant coaches because they were being paid by booster groups, correct? Okay. So going forward, which we found we shouldn't have been doing. So going forward, which we can accept volunteers, how do we ensure that they're not being compensated? Are we making sure that we have, whatever they have to sign as an assistant, saying they are not being they know they're not being compensated by us or any other group, or something to that effect? I just want to make sure we're not going to get in some sort of little
They
issue.
will not receive any compensation from the district. Could the head coach walk out and pay cash out of their own pocket? Todd's my volunteer, I walk out, Todd's been with me the whole season, I pay him myself out of my own pocket to Todd? Could they do that? Yeah. How do you police that? I don't know.
There isn't a district that has an answer to that question yet. It is certainly a challenge. I think this is a positive step in us getting a better grasp on how do we help ensure that the people who are around our kids are going through our process and being vetted through a process that we know helps keep our kids safe. But at the end of the day, there is no guarantee that there's not a parent out in our community that says, hey, this is really important to us. I have this guy that I'm good friends with that I'm gonna have volunteer, but on the side I paid him $500. So we trust our coaches, and if we engage in a strong process of mentoring and evaluating and coaching them up, our hope would be that there'd be enough integrity in our system that they would avoid that stuff. But I don't know if there's a way to guarantee it.
Is this a WIA or is this a state?
It's a federal. The
It's a federal.
Title IX is federal. Yeah.
Okay, it's under Title IX, okay.
Equals
I mean, all I'm saying is, can we just make sure we dot our i's and cross our t's and say, you're not being compensated, and if you decide you want to pay Todd, that's an issue between you. We've done our due diligence saying we are not, we're unaware of it completely. That's what I just want to make sure is we're not caught up in any sort of controversy. Especially when we win state for football and basketball in the same year.
Cross country as well.
And well, cross country would be great.
Girls soccer.
Girls swim.
Possibly gymnastics.
Oh.
I just want to make sure we're covered.
Any other questions?
So years of experience is not going to be your driving force behind setting a pay rate grade.
Correct.
Keep that in mind. Because we don't do that here, right?
Right. It's an element in teaching that we do, but it's just an element in there.
Well, and I think there's something to be said for like having some sort of reward for longevity, assuming that they're following through with the process, the evaluation process, the survey process, and that everything's in place. There is and should be something in place to help keep the coaches incentivized to stay as well. And that's why we look at median and we look at where they are compared to our other districts, so that we can remain competitive.
That'll drive more than anything else.
Median?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The only comment I have, and it's not a request, it's a comment, is I would probably consider doing parent surveys and just treat them for what they are. Parents are nuts, but they're crazy. I'm on the sidelines for a lot of sports. I've been one of those crazy parents.
But there's some merit to it too.
But you just got to take it with a grain of salt. Maybe it's worth 1%, but sometimes some people can formulate good arguments. It's just another perspective, another set of eyes on things.
Any other questions? So we'll come back with Eric's request. Anything else? Okay. All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
You're welcome to all our meetings and stand in front.
Our families would love that.
Good thing you got that short drive. Both of you.
Okay, so my last item is the contributions to the profession, and so Tracy and Terry, these are just opportunities for us to share with the board ways that we're contributing to the profession of education and just sharing our ideas or collaborating with different organizations. So it's primarily about how we're going out and sharing what we're doing here in Muskegon in a way that we find to be successful. So, and that concludes the superintendent's report.
Thank you. Moving on to item 8, other reports, 8A President's Report. First of all, I want to thank all of you for allowing me to serve as your president for another year. I enjoy doing it. Hopefully I'm serving your needs and running meetings and interacting with Kelly the way you'd like. Thank you for that. Before we go on to the 2 listed things here, I also want to make a comment about the Best Workplaces Award. Congratulations to the administrative staff on that. It's awesome. I've said it publicly, but it's my favorite award that we get, because if you look at the of all the pieces of the state rankings and where we are, the just everything as a whole, where we are with our budget, and we're able to achieve all this and being responsible to the taxpayers at the same time. It really says a lot, and it really does a good thing of silencing critics of education, because you can point to we're making our employees happy, and if the taxpayers are honest, we're making them happy as well. So thank you and congratulations.
Thank you.
Moving on to my first item on here, recognition of outgoing board members Lisa Warwick and Dean Strong. I think they're still here.
They're used to the long superintendent report, so.
Would you two like to come forward?
I think we should table this till the end.
That's why it's not an action ends, or there's no Robert's Rules of Order that would entail that. And I promise not to butcher your names as I do the students.
I thought it was great I got that all spelled right.
It was misspelled on the thing, not the certificate, but the cover sheet was misspelled on there. Anyway, we have, before we go into this, I personally want to thank both of you for the many years of service and many hours that you put into this job. It really is a giving to your community, and you both did it well. Everyone brings different aspects to the board and different thoughts, and helps make this stew work right, having all these different ingredients. And you guys were both valuable, and you'll both be missed. You have two very good replacements, but.
We live up to you.
Well, Terry got awards already. It's
Yeah.
our second.
All behind her, Tracy.
Is that egg on there? I dropped that on my plate there. There actually may be. But anyway, so we have 2 awards for the 2 of you, and I'll read Lisa's since she's to my right, for no other reason. The Certificate of Appreciation, the School Board of the Muskegon Norway School District hereby commends Lisa T. Warwick. What is the T for?
Therese.
Teresa, all right. For her service to the public and youth of the Muskegon Norway School District as an elected member of the Muskegon Norway School Board for a continuous period of 12 years. How little your kids were when you started.
And it was in kindergarten when I started.
During this time, Lisa has been elected by her fellow board members to serve as Vice President and Treasurer of the school board. Additional leadership roles that Lisa willingly accepted during her time on the school board, in addition to committee service, are terms as Chairman of the Education Services Committee, Chairman of Business Services Committee, and terms as the board's representative to Cooperative Education Services Agency Number 1. Which you'll have to explain to Bob what that does, because we have it tonight.
Not a good committee.
During Lisa's service, many significant far-reaching issues have faced the district, requiring countless hours of board work sessions and other meetings over and above the normally scheduled regular school board meetings. Not the least of these hours included searches for superintendents and planning for the passage of a successful referendum to benefit the students and community of the Muskegon Norway School District. The Muskegon Norway School Board extends its sincere thanks to Lisa for serving responsibly and effectively. Lisa has demonstrated outstanding leadership and knowledge of matters critical to education, especially punctuation. I added that. To the district taxpayers and implementation of strategic plans and goals of the school district. The Muskegon Norway School Board hereby commends Lisa for her 12 years of service to the community and wishes her well as she goes on to her new endeavors, and it's signed by myself and the other officers of the board. Congratulations.
Well, thank you very much.
And then we have this other one for Dean Strom. Similar to hers, but I'll read Dean's separate part. During Dean's time, Dean has been elected by his fellow board members to serve several terms as treasurer of the school board. Additional leadership roles that Dean willingly accepted during his term on the school board are annual committee services, several terms as chairman of Business Services Committee, and terms as the board's delegate to the Wisconsin Association of School Boards. You may want to explain Tracy what's all involved in that. During Dean's service, many significant far-reaching issues have faced the district, requiring countless hours in board work sessions and other meetings over and above the normally scheduled school board meetings. not the least of which included search for a superintendent and planning for the passage of a successful referendum to benefit the students and community of the Muskegon-Norway School District. The Muskegon-Norway School Board extends its sincere thanks to Dean for serving responsibly and effectively. Dean has demonstrated outstanding leadership, knowledge of matters critical to education, the district's taxpayers, and implementation of strategic plans and goals for the district. The Muskegon-Norway School Board hereby commends Dean for his 10 years of service to the community and wishes him well as he goes on to new endeavors. Signed by myself and the rest of the board. Congratulations. And can we get everyone to come up?
Yeah, I think we need everyone. Yep.
Even the newbies?
Even the newbies.
Please stand behind us. Your turn, okay.
Sure.
You got it, put it upside down.
Maybe like.
Okay, got
Oh
a
my
forensic
God.
award.
Thank you.
But just portable. Of course. Ready? 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2. Oh no, I just deleted. I'm kidding.
And so just a couple of words from
Thank you.
administration. This is just a little token. This is from our,
Congratulations.
yeah,
That's
thank you.
wonderful.
Well, and it's in large part due to the relationship we have with all of you on the board, and you know how important employees are, right? Driving all of the things that we did. And it might seem like over all these years, 10, 12 years, that things have stayed a lot the same, but if you think back to all of the initiatives that we worked through and brought through, and for all of that, thank you. Thank you for being open and understanding that sometimes things worked great and some things we had to kind of move back around and relook at sometimes. But we appreciated the questions, we appreciated the pressure, and for all of that, we're a better place today than we were 10 years or 12 years ago. So thank you very much. We appreciate it. Thank you. All right.
Stick around, we'll be done in about 19 minutes.
At least I need both your inputs on the next part.
Yeah.
I'll take you over.
So you don't have to sit in the corner, you can sit in front. All right, so the other part of the President's report is a discussion regarding the timeline for the superintendent and end of the year summary discussion. So we're in a unique position here because we've been fortunate enough not to have a lot of turnover with the board in the last few years. And since we do have 2 new board members, I would find it valuable and see what the rest of the board feels about including these 2 in the review process for Kelly, because they've obviously been around for the last year, give feedback. To do that, I guess my question to the board would be, 1, is everyone okay with that? And would you 2 do it, for 1? Essentially, it's filling out the survey you did last time and then participating in the discussion of the goals that are met.
Well, certainly, I mean, for myself, I can do the survey. It would depend when you set the...
We would obviously try to schedule it to make it work for everyone. So that's one question. The other question would be, normally we do this after the school year, but I think we wait that long, it doesn't behoove getting their advice because they're away from it too far. The other advantage is the 2 new board members can see how it works by being part of it. And so next year when we do go through a full year, you've seen what we've done, and then you can have input as far as, well, that was dumb, or that was great, or it just adds to the process. So for the first question, is everyone okay with including our 2 past board members in that?
Yes.
Second question is, are you both willing to do it?
Sure.
Yes.
Sure.
Okay. And then third one is, should we try to do this within by the end of May? Does that work? Next few weeks? What's everyone's kind of thought on how soon we should do this? I see people looking at
Let
each
us know
other.
when it needs to be done and we'll get it done.
All
So
right.
typically, just as a reminder of what it was, we usually have a beginning of the year meeting in September, usually mid-September, to kind of set the goals and kind of move forward with that. Then we have a mid-year, typically in February. And then typically, we have, beginning of August is usually when we come around the goals again. But if we push it up, it's no big deal, it's just what's available from the standpoint of, results and things like that. But that can always be reflected as we move forward into the next year. So Rick and I talked about, we won't have, we always give data throughout the school year, so it's not like it's always one time anyway. So we could move it up to the end of May or even middle of June, if that would be, whatever the board would like to do to keep it closer to when our, if we have board members leaving, so.
And I would almost think let's do it closer to the end of May. I don't want to go into June, I think that's going too far. But we have the advantage of this year, the school year ends early. So those data points and those goals will be at that area, so.
My calendar says that May would be better than June.
Your calendar says that? Perfect. Lisa, what does your calendar say?
May could work.
Okay. All right, so if everyone's okay with that, I'll have Darcy shoot out some dates, and we'll try to get something that works for the majority of us, if not all of us, and we'll go from there.
But the survey will come out soon?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, we'll do the survey within the next 10 days, and then try to get together by the end of May. Okay? Does that work?
Yeah, will you do the survey prior to me giving you stuff, or do you
Well,
want
no,
stuff first?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because you always do your
Yeah.
artifacts on there and
Yeah.
everything, so
Okay.
10 to 14
So I'll
days
give
work.
you that, and then you'll push that out.
Right.
Sure, okay.
All right, thank you. That concludes President's report. Board member reports. Anyone else have any reports? Committee reports, we have none. Moving on to resolution action items.
What are you gonna say?
You can back up.
Yeah, can we back up just for a second?
Yes.
Because I forgot this at the last meeting, and I just wanted to bring attention to, so Lakeview had a very long-standing FIAD teacher who retired last year and did Jump Rope for Heart as one of his kind of signature things that he did, and always, increased the amount that they raised every year. And now we have a new FIAD teacher, and I thought he did a fantastic job. He had some big shoes to fill in this regard, and he did not only a great job, but he invited the previous FIAD teacher back, and unfortunately he couldn't make it. He sent kudos to him, to all the parents, and really kind of, I think, gave respect to the teacher before him, and I thought that was noteworthy, and just wanted to bring it to the board that I thought he did a really nice job. And it was raining that day, it could have been a mess, and he handled it very well. So I don't typically bring necessarily those things up, but I thought that was important because Mr. Kalkoff was really important to that group, and I thought he showed proper respect. So.
Well, thank you for sharing
Yep.
that.
Cool. Thank you. And actually, there was one other part of my president's report I forgot to mention. So it looked like we were ignoring Terry with the committee assignments, but she has been assigned to the board member, or she's the school representative on the Park and Rec Board. So she has monthly meetings to go to that, if they have a monthly. They haven't had one in a while, but.
Just had one.
Yeah. So just wanted to point out to everyone that she's filling that role as well. Moving on to resolution action items, 9A, Strategic Plan 2018 through 23.
Motion to approve the 2018 to 23 strategic plan.
Should I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right. Discussion.
So this is the plan that has been brought forward with small tweaks on a monthly basis, and so this is exactly what you saw 3 weeks ago when it was brought forward in discussions.
Questions, comments? Snide remarks? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. Item 9D, Social Studies and Literacy Material Purchases.
Motion to approve social studies and literacy materials as presented below.
Could someone make that motion?
So.
Could someone second it?
I'll second.
Discussion.
So Christie, any changes here?
Yep, so elementary is what was presented at the last board meeting. A couple of changes are noted on the document, and they're highlighted in yellow. The first change is I reached back out to Pearson and just asked about shipping. And, I wasn't expecting them to come back with anything different, but I think they sensed we're putting in a very large order, and I think they sensed like they could probably give us a little wiggle room somewhere. So the savings there is that they're throwing in the teachers' materials for free rather than charging us. So that went down a few thousand. We're removing the request to adopt a course fee at the high school, and we will look for ways to annually absorb that in the curriculum budget. And then in regards to the year-long English class, we will be taking that through the CPC process, so it'll go through that full process review. But I did want to just put down some of the main bullet points. That was the rationale regarding the why behind that move. So those bullet points are there as well. And those are the 3 changes.
Any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Moving on to item 9C, textbook purchases.
Motion to approve 2018 annual textbook purchases of $358,350.24 as presented, to be funded from the curriculum budget.
Someone make that?
So moved.
The longer it takes to get a second, the
Second.
longer the meeting's going. Discussion.
Any comments or questions?
Is this the same budget as the teacher had come to mention before about wanting the students to have 2 books and all that? Okay, so I was just curious, because I know I talked to you a little bit afterwards. Is there any way that you can make it so that, we're trying to get these students ready for the future, right? So a lot of the stuff is moving from books to technology-based stuff, where I did kind of look into, is there some correlation with writing things down and memory retention? And there is. There is actually a lot of evidence out there that shows that that's a very positive thing to do, but is there some way that you can get iPads where they're still reading the book, still writing it down, save it to a file, a drive somewhere that they can then have that to go back to every time? Have we looked into that venue instead of always just having the hard copy books and the Post-it notes and all that good stuff?
Yeah, when it's available, we do what's called a bundle purchase. And so the textbook companies, they're in it to make money, so they're going to put packages together that are desirable, that they're still going to make money on. But it is actually cheaper to purchase the textbook and the online resource as a bundle per student license, as opposed to purchasing either one of those independently from another. So we do have, when it's available, we do both. Because it's packaged that way, and then we save money by doing that. Some of the companies only have hard textbooks, like all of our AP resources for advanced placement. Very few of those companies, because they really provide resources for colleges, and colleges aren't quite on that online movement quite yet. So a lot of our AP resources are just the textbooks with very few online. But we try to do both when we can. And with some of them, they do have opportunities for students to do both. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I was just trying to figure out a way, because, I get that, I would say 50% of the kids may take that book back out and look at the little notes that they wrote and relish about the time spent that they read that, and then there's the other 50% that book is on the shelf and there's dust just covering it and stuff. And I just would hate to waste that money. That wouldn't be necessary.
I think we're in transition, and someday we may get to that point. But
Yeah.
it's going to take a while to
Yeah.
break news. Especially like Chrissy said, they want to make money, so
Yeah.
we find a way where we can do it.
And one of the things that we've implemented this year is interactive note-taking. And so that allows students to still get that handwritten mind to pencil connection, and then go back to that as a study strategy. So even if they're working out of a textbook, they're taking purposeful notes that they are handwriting, and then they're using them for something. So we're doing what we can to blend where we can, where it makes sense.
Yeah. I know there's an app that you can, my daughter was saying that she's using in college right now, that she can clearly on her, iPad go ahead and write it in, and it saves it as a doc. It's crazy.
Like right over the top of the text? Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Mhm.
Nice to have that incorporated within her.
Within my perspectives, it's not a handwritten note, but you can highlight text and annotate within, but it's typed, not handwritten.
And some of the studies I really see a difference between typing and writing too, that I looked at and stuff, so.
I've got a question for you on the leadership course. I've got a couple of them. First, the real simple one. What's a Fable-style paperback?
It is let's see. Well, Chris, you read the books. Do you want to explain the content?
Sure, where is that?
Oh, it's the not the style of paper.
Right, it's the content. So fable style is, they're telling a story from like a third perspective, and they're walking you through it. That's one. One of them will use characters to lay out plots that are more familiar, but yet still get the gist or the trait or skill that you're trying to focus on through, right? So I read these two. I mean, they were good. So.
Okay, so my second question then is, what's the purpose of the leadership course? Is there's no requirements for that, is there?
No requirements.
It's not required for that. Is it just to help some of our students become better leaders? Okay.
Yeah, I went through CPC last year.
Yeah. Just trying to remember what it is.
I think we're in a pilot
Yep.
for this, so it's going to come back after a year, and we'll review it, right?
I think we had some pretty lengthy discussions
Yeah.
at the board level.
So
I'm just trying to dust off some of the cobwebs out
Do you
there.
recall how many students signed up for that for next year? Do you remember?
I
If you
I
don't,
can
that's
double
okay.
check, but I
That's question
think
number 3.
Oh, that was?
That's okay.
I think
Simple things are easy.
we have either 2 or 3 sections, so 60 to 100, but I have the data, I can look at it. I need a couple minutes to pull it up.
And then, last is just a comment. I'm sure Rick will be glad to see that the shipping is all free on that course. That's a start.
With digital files.
Oh, no. I was like, wait a minute, I thought they were both
Good one,
paper.
Rick.
Nice try.
All right. Anything else? Moving on to, I'm sorry. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Moving on to 9D, Neola policies and administrative guidelines, second reading.
Motion to approve second reading of Neola policies and administrative guidelines as presented.
All right. Can I get a second from somebody?
Oh, I'll second.
Thank you. Discussion.
So the board had the opportunity to review these 3 weeks ago, and they will be coming back again in consent in 2 weeks. So I didn't receive any questions. Again, I just urge the board, if there are questions that you have, we have in the next 2 weeks, you can share those with me, or if you have any grammatical changes. And Lisa, you're welcome to review those too. I'd be happy to make those changes before they come back. We vote now, you'll vote twice.
All right. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Tracy had a question.
I'm sorry.
Just one question. So these are rotational policies that are being done, correct?
In a way,
They go in, like this group of them get reviewed every 3 years or so?
So we
or-
work with Neola, and that's what they do. And then anything that comes up that is a statutorial change in Wisconsin, they'll make those adjustments, they'll bring them forward for us. They'll indicate whether or not it's due to language in statute, or if it's just a recommended change, or that it's just changing a word, But then we also bring forward some that we feel we need to update because it wasn't clear or something like that. So you'll see that like on the very bottom, there's some district policies that are district-driven changes, so those are from us, but otherwise, it is through them.
And then do you have some sort of, because when our policies are, that we use, there's like a directory of terminology and stuff like that. Is that somewhere that
Yeah,
I
so,
can't find?
sure, yeah, if you go into the policies and, I believe definitions is under policy 0100, and so, as you look through it, I'd be happy to sit down with you, Tracy, and we can go through some of that too. But yeah, there's a definitions piece, okay?
Any other questions? None, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Going on to item 10, discussion items. 10A 2018-19 budget, anything new with that?
So at the last meeting, after the board approved the preliminary budget assumptions, there was a request that came from the board as to how the additional revenue would be utilized, or how at least it's broken down at this point. So the way that the budget is proposed right now, we will be getting $204 more per student in categorical aid. And so when we plug that information into the formula and use all of the assumptions that are built in right now as to how the state funding formula is going to work, there are 3 scenarios that we're looking at. We always look at an increase of 50 full-time equivalent students, a flat enrollment, and a declining enrollment, because each of those has an impact, not only on revenue, but also the tax levy. So we like to run those scenarios for you. So in each of the scenarios, I've listed out what the new revenue would be in total. So that would be how much the budget would actually increase by. And then below that are the estimates, the dollar values for each of the increases that we're looking at as far as health and dental, utilities, transportation. And then the balance of that, as we looked at the budget for the master planning projects, we had agreed that the balance of that would be used to support the pool projects using the operational funds. So in each scenario, the pool project budget is what changes based on the revenue that we would potentially end up with. And again, all of this information is preliminary. The budget continues to change all the way through October, really. So this is where we're at as of right now. In July, we'll be firming up the numbers a little bit more for you to approve preliminary budget for the annual meeting.
So why would we not be passing along the health and dental increases to employees? Well, the question, the problem with this that I see is that if it goes up 122,000 this year, and it goes up another 122,000 next year, and we're using fund balance to support that increase, next year, we may not be able to, and now we're going to have, instead of a 3% increase, we're going to have a 6% increase.
So we're not using fund balance to support those increases.
Well, we're using new revenue. I understand that. But I mean, I thought the whole idea behind being self-insured is that, of course, you want to have a kitty there, but you're also looking at what your expenses are going up each year, and that does get passed along to the employee.
Well, at this point, though, and correct me if I'm wrong, Julie, we are at a negative increase from the standpoint of usage, from our premium standpoint. So this is still building up. We need a 3-year process to build up enough to feel comfortable with any kind of catastrophic above and beyond, the insurance, our stop-gap loss. So that's part of it. We are doing this so that we have that kitty built up. It is like overall, we are still below, our utilization is below the premiums we're collecting right now. So we put in the 2% so that we can, as self-funded, we want to make sure that we have a kitty, that we are financially supported. And this is new money that won't go away. So this is on top of the money that we're receiving, and that would just continue. It could be zero, but we still have that money from the state, that categorical aid.
And again, this estimate right now is really built on what our utilization is, Kelly mentioned right now, but our plan year doesn't start till September 1st. So we're pretty early yet in setting that rate. So right now we're saying 2%, it could be zero depending on how the next couple of months go. We just wanted to build something into the budget to support an increase if it were to happen, be as most conservative as possible. But I understand what you're saying as well.
But we do have some insurance change plans in the next item.
Any other questions on the budget? All right, moving on to item 10B, 2018 Insurance Plan Review. I saw that rolled right in.
It's a bill, thank you. So every year, we go through portions of the PDSA process to determine where we're at, and in this case, from a compensation standpoint. And so we did a little bit more of an extensive review on all of our insurance benefits for employees to determine, what we should move forward with, what we should make adjustments to, and so on and so forth. So in starting with the dental plan, life insurance plan, long-term and short-term disability plans, we are not making any recommendation to make adjustments to the plan design itself. For the most part, we looked at that a while back. We're comfortable with where we're at. We do fall into where other districts are as far as life and long-term disability. Short-term disability is an elective benefit, so it's not something it's something we offer, but the district does not pay for. As far as retirement benefits go, we are still looking at retirement benefits. That's a little bit more of an extensive process. And so we're working with our actuaries to determine a recommendation for you that will be coming forward at a future date. And then health insurance is our last main insurance plan. So looking at plan design changes. So we looked at different aspects of the insurance plan, as well as looked at the fact that we have the on-site clinic to look at how we can further drive utilization into the clinic from our employees. So one of the recommendations we'd like to move forward with is that instead of our office primary care visits and specialty visits, right now are $20 and $40 respectively, we're looking to increase those to $30 and $50. That would provide us the opportunity to, again, we offer the clinic for free, so it at least gives people into the clinic, at least the first round. They're not self-selecting a specialist, and our physician assistant can assist in helping drive people to the correct specialty care that they need. We are also looking at the drug card for our employees. So right now we have a very nice drug card. It's $5, $10, $25, and $150, and again, those are different tiers based on the formulary of each of the drugs. So we are recommending at this point somewhat of an increase, $10, $20, $50, and $250. You'll notice that that last increase goes from $150 to $250. Those are specialty drugs. We have 6 employees that utilize those drugs at this point. So we have low utilization in that tier. Those drugs could run anywhere on a monthly basis from $1,000 to $20,000. We don't know, we pay for that cost, but those specialty drugs, depending on what they're for, can be very significant. And so the fact that the drug card is $250 a month, that $100 increase is high to an extent, but it does give us the opportunity now, while very few people are on those drugs, to put that into place. Something that is recommended by the insurance company because more and more drugs are moving into that 4th tier.
Can I ask a question about, so if somebody goes to the clinic and they need amoxicillin, is that just under the 5, or is that just...
Non-narcotic drugs for our employees are free.
Okay, at the clinic.
We purchase them at cost at the clinic, yes.
Okay, and that's pretty much all we have is the non-narcotic,
correct,
right?
that's all we have, correct.
Okay.
And we do monitor, Jenny does monitor what people are utilizing and does make requests for additions or removing things as needed, so we're kind of keeping that stocked with things that people will actually use.
So it's another great reason to use the...
To use the clinic, right.
Yes. Okay. What about, have we looked at other options besides the drug card that we use? Because I remember last year, I gave you some information about something that the NSBA had for a drug program. Have we reviewed that yet, or?
As we go through the process of looking at our stop-loss insurance for renewal and some of these other items, we would look at the different companies. But at this point, we keep the drug card with the TPA that we're using at this point, which is Anthem.
Okay, something to consider.
Yeah.
So, I'm new, so I'm gonna
Yeah, absolutely.
do they have something, like we have WageWorks, where you can put money aside and pay all your health
like a flex benefit
Yes,
account? Yes,
they
people
do.
have that option.
Okay.
They are all employees are notified of the changes. We try to do it by June before they leave. It might be a little bit later. Open enrollment for us is July, and so they are notified of that beforehand, but then our flex plan enrollment isn't until November. So people kind of have to plan for what that looks like, but yes, we do offer that opportunity for health and dependent care. The next item that we are looking, and this kind of aligns with how we would help support preventative care, but also want to put more ownership on the employee. Health risk assessments are something we run through the clinic. We are going to be, at this point, offering, we do offer the HRA to all of our employees. What we'd like to do for the 19-20 school year is give people the opportunity to have an HRA done. We don't have a lot of drive for people to use that right now, and those HRAs can catch a lot of disease very early on. And so we want to encourage our employees on the health plan to participate in that, and if they don't, we would like to charge them $50 more per person per month on the health plan. And when I say per person per month, I just mean employees and spouses on the plan. So not dependents. We don't do HRAs for any of the dependents. But what we're hoping that does is drive utilization again, to get the HRA for prevention, but also then utilizing the clinic and help promoting that as well.
So have you ever thought about doing the reverse and actually giving, because what we have is credit. So you're like incentivizing people to do healthier things, like join a health club and do.
We tried that.
We did
At
try
first,
that.
we just did the HRA year one and said, it's free, use it, there's no incentive, no disincentive. Then the next year, we tried a small incentive to see if we could get people to, your premiums would go down, by this. We get very little increase from the previous year. So, and it wasn't significant, but, it was enough.
So you actually probably make more money leaving it like that than, because you really do want to incentivize your employees to do healthier things. So charging on something, I don't know if that really incentivizes them to get healthy.
It does, because we've looked at other district models. And if you know you have to pay $100 more per person per month, or $50 or $100 total per month for your check, that would incentivize
It
people.
works.
It worked for me.
It worked for me too.
So where
Different approaches,
I,
but we do have, so
It's
you
the
know.
same thing.
Yeah, we have an incentive program through our wellness program. So we do incentivize, we do the opposite for those who go through the healthy activities, and they track that through our HealthStat online process. And so then they get, at the end of the year, they get a sum of money, depending on the year.
Because my health insurance is like $50, $60 less because I'm doing all this other stuff. So
And
it's like the same
could
thing.
phrase
Yeah, but you're in
But I'm
healthcare.
actually doing something healthy.
You're in healthcare.
I know I am.
So ours went at our work from below 50% when we gave credits to over 95% when we analyzed
And
them.
we have seen that data from other
Ours too.
school districts as well, so.
It's so sad.
But we'll try it, and if it
Yeah.
doesn't, if we don't see increased utilization, because that's what we want,
You will.
then we'll look at, making a change. It's all fluid in our eyes. We've done something different every year, so we hope this will work, so.
The next thing is enhancing our employee assistance program. So our district has we have an employee assistance program, but it's a free benefit through our life insurance company. And it offers employees the opportunity to have 1 to 2 sessions to help support them through various aspects of what they need emotionally. We want to enhance our wellness program in this capacity. This dollar amount is built into that health insurance increase that we talked about before. This would offer employees the opportunity to have up to 6 sessions for professional services for free. We did a survey of all of our employees and asked what the #1 thing was that we could further support them on, and it was depression, anxiety, and stress. So this opportunity we feel is something that people who utilize would continue to utilize and probably would benefit from with the enhanced benefit.
How many members are now using the 2 or 3 that we give them?
I'd have to find out that data from the company because we really don't know. We just put the information out and people who use it, use it.
That'd be interesting to know, because we may not even be, we may not even have a dozen people using what we're offering now. Not sure we're gonna wanna offer 6 if they're not even using the 2 or 3.
Okay, I can bring that back. Another item we want to look into, people always ask us about vision insurance. It's an option that we can provide people on a voluntary basis, similar to what we do from a short-term disability perspective. So again, no cost to the district. There are a number of companies that we've kind of looked at as options and are just looking at how that benefit could be something that would benefit our employees. Some of the companies require a certain number of staff members to participate, so we're still looking into that, but we'd like to offer it as a completely voluntary benefit. And then finally, the last thing that we're looking at is direct contracting partnerships, and we would like to start with ATI. ATI has come to us and said that they would love to partner with us. They currently are, for one of our health plans, an out-of-network provider, but they run the cost for our employees at in-network rates, so it's cheaper to keep them coming here right in Muskego. They would basically set a flat fee of $150 and per visit. The initial visit is always free. And what we found is that when the employees come to the clinic, Jenny says, and she's our PA, they'll say, oh, my back's really sore, I feel like I need to go to a back specialist. And she'll say, well, did you even have it looked at first by somebody who can, kind of guide you in a direction that, will support what your needs are? And so she has referred people to ATI. They do a free consult. They let you know approximately what you may need, if you need sessions, if you need a specialist. And then the cost associated with them going to a specialty doctor is saved. And so I did include a document in here that's called ATI PDF. It's something that they provided to us. And I won't go through the whole thing, but I did want to show, if you go to page 3, this is a very specific example of a person in our system that actually went through the same type of thing. They hurt themselves, they went to the emergency room. It cost $1,300 to send them there. Then they were referred to an orthopedic doctor. It cost them $2,200 there. Found out it was the wrong type of issue, so they went to a different orthopedic doctor, and it cost $300 there. And then they went to a hospital-based therapy, physical therapy, and that cost about $2,600. So the total cost was about $6,551 for this one person to finally get the care that they actually needed. And then the therapy services that they were selecting, because they are hospital-based, are very expensive compared to what we can offer right here. So what we're looking to do is partner directly with them. Instead of processing anything through the insurance company, we would pay ATI directly. And because we're doing that anyway, because we're self-funded, but this would be outside of the health insurance plan. And if our employees would go to ATI instead of choosing their own, which they can automatically do, we would pay for that total cost for free. That actually does save us money in the long run to pay for them 100% than running it through the insurance company and have them managing co-pays. So it's information that's there for you to think about.
Where's ATI located?
Right in the strip mall on Janesville.
Oh, there's one. Okay.
There's also one in New Berlin.
There's one in New Berlin. They have them everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, they're everywhere.
Oh, okay.
So again, and the second page of this talks about like what a wrong diagnosis can be and how much the costs could have been avoidable. So we could, it's not working, we could avoid about $5,000 in costs for ourselves if they would have went for a free consult first. So it's something we will be recommending. We don't have the contract settled yet. We're still looking at legal and liability from that perspective. But it's the way that we are looking to go, given that we can create a lot more savings than just letting people kind of refer themselves.
What's their copay right now if they were to go to physical therapy?
So it would now be $50 if the board approved the increase. Right now it's $40 per visit. So if they had to go for 6 visits, it would cost them $240 if we paid them directly, plus whatever the cost of therapy on the back end that we would pay. So we pay the $150 per visit, and we're saving there, plus they're saving $40 a visit. So, I mean, if you think about it, if you have a child that tears their ACL or MCL and has to go for therapy services, that can add up to a lot of money because, that can add up to about $2,000, which is our out-of-pocket. That does create savings and incentive for them to go to a place that is going to be cheaper for us on our end to pay directly. This is also starting to happen more and more with orthopedic doctors as well, and something that we're exploring. Orthopedic doctors are out there setting very specific costs for surgeries as opposed to you go into an Aurora, Pro Health, whatever, and have surgery and maybe have to have it done a second time because it didn't work. There are doctors out there that are now looking at direct contracting saying a knee will cost you $16,000. No more, we guarantee it for 90 days. So it's becoming more and more of a thing out there. See ya. Sorry, that wasn't 19 minutes. And something that we'll continue looking at exploring as long as it provides a savings to the district from a health insurance perspective and gives our employees a great benefit as well.
So overall, we're paying more than $190 per PT appointment
Yes.
right now.
Yes, running it through the insurance program. Correct.
So would they typically be going to like the clinic first, or would they just be recommended?
They can choose, but our communication would be, if you're not feeling well or something's not right, if you want to go to the clinic, great, Johnny can help you. If not, you can go to ATI for a free consult, and they'll help steer you if it's a musculoskeletal or something
But
else.
even if you did go to an orthopedic and he sent you to physical therapy, you could choose ATI for no copay.
Correct. Yes.
Which would cost those things.
Correct.
And of course, you guys are very good at conveying that information to the staff. I've heard some good things about
We try.
what to do.
Leave them in the water.
So those would be the recommendations, again, that we would be bringing forward the next time around. I can bring back information on the Eap utilization. Is there any other information that you would need for next time?
I'm sorry.
I didn't say anything.
Oh, you must hear my echo. How's our out-of-pocket compared, and also how is our monthly premium compared? Have we looked at that?
Yes. Our out-of-pocket, we just got that data not too long ago, but we compared to other districts within our region, and we can pull specific districts. Of course, I'm not going to have it sitting right here. But we are comparable within the region. As far as what we charge for single and family, our premiums themselves are very comparable, but maybe a little on the high side. But having some of these adjustments as far as how much office visits, co-pays, and the drug card, making those changes will create savings within our plan as well to help bring down the premium. Our out-of-pocket is $2,000, $4,000. Mm-hmm. So, well, it's 2,000, but if it's a family, that's like an individual, right? It would be 2,000 with an individual. So, nope, that was single. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we're pretty comparable. And what's getting harder and harder is so many districts are putting out HSAs and HRAs that it's really hard to compare what we have to what they have because the plans are so different. So. Okay. If there's anything else that needs to be brought back, you can let me know in advance, and I'd be happy to bring it for the next meeting.
All right, moving on, discussion items. Item 10C, student fees, 2018.
Really easy. We're not asking for an increase. I did include a survey that's done every year, so you can see how we compare to other districts. At this time, we don't feel that there's a need for an increase, given where we are with our budget and where we are comparably to other districts.
Questions, comments?
Thank you. I'm sure I'll make a lot of parents happy.
10D, purchase of two-way radio system. That's you.
Next to you, Laura,
Just a little background on operations budgeting. So we have two kind of buckets. One of them is capital maintenance, which is usually around $400,000 to $600,000. It was $400,000 a few years ago, and we've been trying to creep it up a little bit. And that is to take care of all the infrastructure and big things that we can't just, take care of on an ongoing basis. And then we have an operations budget, which buys all the toiletries, space for utilities, and all the other things that we buy on a daily basis. So this item is on the two-way radio system, which is under the capital budget for next year. So this would actually be from July to July of next year. So as we've been going through our built-in referendum projects, we've been working on the radio systems. And actually, we've been working on the radio system design for well over a year, just considering potentially going digital at some point. We were actually informed by the FCC that we can no longer get licenses on our current radio system, which is analog. What that means is if I'm here, I can't probably get a hold of the high school, but if I go to the high school with my radio, if I have that setting in my radio, I can talk at the high school. But most places are all local, and actually Bailey and Country Meadows is pretty difficult. If you're on the lower level calling up to the upper playground, for instance, you typically can't hear each other, so it's just really two-way radios. The system that we're proposing going to next year would be able to talk to any radio throughout the district, so if you're in Lakeview, you can call Mill Valley. They're IP-based, and you can actually integrate cell phone apps with it, so if you didn't want to carry a radio, an administrator could be in Florida, turn on the app, and get onto the radio if they had to. You can get work orders from certain radios. You have pre-canned alerts, so if there's a tornado warning or a lockdown, you could send a message through a radio that would go to all district radios or select ones. The police department has several of our radios, so they would have immediate access as well. And yeah, so that's really the system. We've been working with Baycom. We've worked with them for the past few years and had really good customer service. They're really good at thinking forward. They've been working with the police department with their systems, so our systems would align if we were to move forward with them. So we looked at this as a potential referendum expenditure for the buildings that are touched, because there are furniture, fixtures, and equipment budgets within those schools. So the $79,000 would come from that, and those are just all of the radios that would cover those sites. And then $95,000 would come out of the building and grounds capital budget for next year. We currently have 176 radios, and they're not just used a couple per school. We have many, many uses for them, and many people carrying them at all times. So it really is an integral part of the communications in our district.
So 176, right? That's the total you want?
Yep.
So how does that go with the police department? I'm not sure what they're involved in it is, so.
They would have, well, currently the SROs have radios, but then we also have 3 radios in dispatch right now. But they can only pick up what we're putting out for an analog signal, so they may or may not hear anything. But they would have access to being online.
So they'll still have the separate new handheld?
Correct.
So for the new schools, or at least Mosquito Lakes, we did have a budget in there for new radios for at least that school, or not, or no?
We have furniture, fixtures, and equipment budget in which we came in under, so we were able to plug this into.
But that was kind of a planned, having a radio was part of the plan for purchase under that. Under
we
the
needed
fixtures.
to have radios there, and we just learned recently that the ones that we have aren't FCC licensed,
So we were going to spend part of that anyways.
We were forcing ourselves to have to do this.
So what would, and just questions here, but, so what would be the point of it's probably not a good way to ask that, but I mean, what would be the reason a person would want to use an app on their phone?
If you didn't want to carry a bulky radio on you, you could just have an app instead of having a radio on you. So not all of us take radios home, but we all take our cell phones home.
But the app is for what?
It just ties right into the radio system, so you could just get on the app and talk.
So
it will come through the radio.
Yeah, but then you're not on RF, then you're on microwave, so what would be I'm just trying to understand because you're going to radios for a specific purpose, and so they're two distinctly different forms, so if you're going on, the RF spectrum, you're going to talk on that. If you're going to go on a cell phone, so now you've shifted now, so.
At the all IP?
No, it's completely different
It is an
frequencies,
IT
so.
system. It is run online, so we have to get a server for this particular system as well. The way I understand it is that there's a monthly fee to have the app. So we would only give it to administrators that wanted it. And if they're off-site, they could get into the radio system without having a radio with them. And maybe nobody opts to have that. But I know that there's certain administrators here that don't carry radios, that it might benefit that in an emergency they would just have that app to be able to get into the system.
So what was the reason for them not just using cell phones instead of handhelds?
We looked at the ROI, and it actually is cheaper over time to just buy a handheld, and then you're not paying for it for a lifetime, whereas you have a monthly fee for an app. And I don't recall what it was, it's $25 a month or $20 a month per phone, so there is an ongoing expense too.
So there's a free walkie-talkie app, so I use it with my family, so I know there's.
Well, you don't want to give that out because then the students will be on our radio system.
Yeah. So I know that you like Baycom as your provider, so, but have you gotten other pricings from other entities to see if they're comparable? Or then?
We could go that route. We had been with somebody for about 10 years, and we had a very difficult situation working with them, and they're one of the other big players in the area, so I can definitely explore that route. It did take almost a year to design the system, so it's a difficult and a weird thing because working with an engineer to competitively bid something is a little bit easier. So if we're going to go with an HVAC system, have an engineer design it, I wouldn't bid out the engineer, but I would bid out their spec. So this is a unique project in that they were designing and building it at the same time, totally ready for it. But if that's something the board would be more comfortable with, I can definitely come back to.
Maybe I'll call you on this. We can,
Good idea.
yeah. We can talk off the line on this.
So, do we have any concerns about using referendum money
For this?
an after-the-fact project?
No, because it's part of the, you need radios for, if you don't buy this radio, you're buying other radios for it. which
You
is
need
still-
TVs for schools.
Yep, and they can be put under they can be, and we're buying TVs under the referendum. Not 46-inch plasmas in the cafeteria, but anything for the building can go in, and I have no reservations on that.
Big difference is, we do utilize the walkie-talkie
Yeah,
system
we're
now.
not adding anything.
We're not adding, like we did, like the TV issue years ago.
There's no Wii or TV system. That was.
Well, that's your two justifications of using referendum
Well, it's common
money.
practice too. It's not just our justification.
Same, again, that's,
Well, communications,
if I had asked, would we pass the referendum, are we going to be using this money for two-way radios? The answer would have been no. And now it's yes.
I guess,
I
they
would've
would
said
ask
it's
me,
not
I would have had a
very
different answer.
It might have been, we don't know yet.
Yeah.
Because it's really just falls under that furnishing.
Fixtures, furnishing,
Yeah.
Which
It
is.
is-
And so as you design and you determine, then the needs become clear.
I have no
wasn't
doubt
mine
when they
at
built Lake Dune that they put in, that they used referendum money for, I can't say for sure, but that would make sense. They use referendum money to put in their walkie-talkie system there.
How do you know that?
I don't know that for a fact.
That I can't say to, but I can tell you that every
It would
building
make
that
sense.
we've done furniture, fixtures, and
To save some time, if you get, so when we talk offline, I'd like to see the FCC order that says you can't use that. I think that's what's perplexing me. But maybe, but,
Well, we lost all those frequencies on the high school PAC.
yeah, but that's different. That's a 700 band that the police are now, so, but this one I imagine is probably 900 or 400, and I'm thinking,
Why 400?
yeah, and I'm thinking they're not forcing you off that, so, but maybe, I should see, but, I mean, we're not forced off of it. And so I'm not sure why the school would
Work
be.
off of repeaters, or?
Yep.
I would
So,
definitely bring it back.
well, you would definitely need a repeater for here, but I'm just curious what the rationale behind that is more so, but we can talk about that.
That's good.
But I also have, I'll just say, I don't know, I'd have to think about this.
So that's coming back for
referendum stuff.
action then,
It's like,
next
Well,
time?
then where are you drawing the line at it, though?
that's true, I don't know where,
'Cause
yeah.
I
But-
can bring this one back for discussion, because we're not, we have to get through the summer.
Well, it's probably only me, I can talk to you offline and that'll be it, he doesn't have to,
Well,
yeah. I can just talk to you offline and
You
that'd
can
be
come
fine.
bring it
I
back.
can bring it back, that's
Yeah,
fine. There's no
okay.
discussion, there's no discussion. It's fine. All right, anything else you need on this immediately? Otherwise, it's gonna come back for further discussion after.
Further discussion?
Yeah.
Okay.
Fine.
All right.
Thank
Plow
you.
truck.
Well, I can come back for action if you want. We can just discuss it then.
That's fine.
Okay. And if you need another time, then.
We just defer it. Plow truck.
So each of our larger schools have a plow truck for plowing during the winter. We're proposing purchasing one for Mosquito Lakes Middle School. The proposal's attached, it's about $39,000, includes the plow. This could be something that would have fallen on another project under furniture, fixtures, and equipment, because it's equipment needed for the school. However, I'm proposing using the operation budget because we find that it'll probably get used elsewhere throughout the winter, or throughout the summer months. We don't want it to just sit there because we have to say it can only be there. If we're gonna use referendum dollars, it has to be something that's solely used for that school. So this would be something that we would mainly have at that school, but also pull it for other duties throughout the year, so it's not just sitting idle.
So we're going from 8 schools down to 6. So why do we need more plowing equipment?
The littler schools don't, Test Corners and Mosquito L don't have plow trucks. They have very little sidewalks that are required. So this is a larger facility. I did note on here that we do have flexibility with our current plow contractor that if we call them and say we can take care of it, they don't come in. So we had that big snowstorm just a few weeks back, that was $10,000. So the more that we can do, the less they bill us for, because they're billing for every time they come out. So 4 large snow events potentially could pay for this truck.
Is that 10,000 just for one building or for the whole district?
That's for the whole district.
So you're not gonna use this one truck?
Correct. Yeah, correct. But over time, it would be an ROI. And we do haul things continuously, deliveries from all schools. It gets used much more than just haul.
And this would be coming out of your
Correct.
your budget?
So to go back to Eric's point, how many trucks do we have right now?
I listed in here, we have one at the high school, one at Bay Lane. And then we have an HVAC, it's like a little cube thing that uses just for HVAC, doesn't have a plow on it. So we have one dump truck at the high school and one at Bay Lane, we'll be using interchangeably throughout the district. Late to noon, we have a ATV, which was close to $30,000. We have storage in a garage for the ATV. We don't look to have interior storage at Mosquito Lakes we don't have a garage at Mosquito Lakes.
Use the ATV to clear the lot?
Yep, not the lot, just the lots.
sidewalks.
Yep. And what we do is we kind of storm it, so the guys will go out together and try to get as much as they can done. And we work together in unison with the plow company to, they do whatever we can do. So they may come in our grounds guys may come in at 3 a.m. and get stuff set. They may do the ESC here, and we have a price of $500 if we can do this, then we don't get charged by the plow company. And then each site is based on how much, what the square footage size.
So if you had, can I bring up the D again too when we discuss this, or is that okay? Or?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so using that rationale that you've got this truck, and it's kind of an enterprise use, right? You could use it all over, and if you don't have an answer, no, that's fine. But I guess I would look to see why the handhelds would not be treated that same way, because if you're installing a new system, it's an enterprise system. So unless every school is paying out of their budget for those handhelds, then I don't, that's the philosophy I'm using for whether or not it should be on the referendum or not. And so the same thing I'm seeing here is that if it's an enterprise purchase, being purchased for the use of the whole school district, then it comes out of your a budget. And I would use that same philosophy for the handheld system, because you're replacing an entire system, and if you choose to treat one school as an asset class and use dollars for that school but not use it for the others, that's, I don't think, doesn't wash here.
So the money that you're talking about for the using referendum funds is actually for the radio itself, or is it for part of the infrastructure?
I would buy the head end.
So the infrastructure, the servers and the infrastructure that works for the district is being paid for outside of that budget. It's the actual handhelds that would be.
And that's what I'm trying to rationalize, just so you have an idea. Yeah.
Would be used for staff that are.
Yeah, and he did a good job presenting that, you know, those two number breakouts, but that's the difficulty I have going through. So if you have any information that can help me get over that, that would be great, yeah.
Just break out that you're not using the infrastructure.
But, okay, thank you.
And I'm just curious about this. So if you had a plow at Bay Lane now, could that plow at Bay Lane also go to Mosquito Lakes and maybe have this new one be at Lake Danoon and do Lakeview? I just don't understand why we can't somehow use it within.
You're going to use it everywhere. That's why we actually are trying to buy it out of the operations budget instead of referendum. So if we chose to purchase out of referendum, we would have to keep it at Mosquito Lakes forever.
Well, Mosquito Lakes or Mill Valley or Bay Lane, because all three of those were under referendum. But then it gets real dicey.
So I would just rather have the agility to use all of our trucks in any place and not be held, you know. I just don't want us to get scrutinized under referendum purchasing for doing something we shouldn't have done.
But we're sure that those radios that would be purchased at Mosquito Lakes and Mill Valley and Bay Lane, correct? Those three schools would all fit under that referendum. That's kind of a justification.
Any other questions on the truck?
One quick one. About how much would you expect we'd be able to save each year? What would be the ROI, I guess is what I'm asking, roughly?
How's the weather?
I know it's tough to say.
Then don't. Just don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Some years it might be more than others.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but you said there's no garage at Mosquito Lakes.
Correct.
So we want to put a brand new truck out there with.
Yeah, so at Bay Lane and at the high school.
These aren't cars. I mean, we do that with all of our fleets. I mean,
all the time.
yeah.
With no garage.
Right.
Even at the high school, even though we have garages.
Right, that's good.
Build a garage.
We do have garages, don't we? The auto shop has garages, correct? But we don't keep our vehicles in there?
Usually they're full of projects that they're inside of the shop.
Any other question on the plow truck? Moving on to the boiler replacement.
So we had condenser go in one of the boilers at Lake Danoon this winter, so we bid it out competitively instead of just paying to get it fixed, because the replacement cost is nearing the repair cost. So a good rule of thumb in facilities, if something costs more than 2/3 of what it is, you should just buy something new. The life expectancy of the boilers that we have are 15 years. Lake Danoon was built in 1999, so we can expect the other two to maybe be on their way as well. So we bid it out competitively, and Southport Heating and Cooling won. I'd like to get it replaced.
Any issues? All these are we coming back for action, but any questions, I guess? Hearing none, moving on to carpet replacements at the high school.
So the next two items, we've, this year with utilities and just different contract eliminations that you guys have approved, we've done pretty well. So we're sitting about $200,000 right now, and at a point in time under budget. So I just wanted to bring these forward for discussion, not something that couldn't change in the next couple of weeks by the time we talk next, if something, an emergency repair would come up or something. But the carpets at Mosquito High School are starting to get really worn, so there's some pictures attached. In some areas they're rolling, and others are just really worn down. So we bid out all of the, or I think this is the bulk of the carpeted areas at the high school, from classrooms to the library to admin offices, and based upon however much we would be able to afford in the remaining operations budget, we would do some of this. So I don't project doing it all, but just some areas that we would like to do in June if funds are still available.
Have you looked at restretching any of the ones that are just rolling? If they're in decent shape?
They're pretty rough. Actually, all the contractors that came through complimented us because these are going on 17 years and they're about 10-year carpets. So we do a pretty aggressive extraction 1 or 2 times a year. And so anything that we could repair, we would. And we're going to replace it, if approved, with carpet tile, which we could then pull up sections and not have to replace an entire boom.
Question? What are you looking for on this one? I know, obviously, it's going to come back, but I mean, you said this is more of a discussion. Are you?
Yeah, next time I would bring back a defined, where they felt comfortable with where we were at sitting with the budget with a defined number. So I'd recommend Hughes flooring for doing a certain amount of areas. And we would prioritize where best to the worst is to come up with what we would do this summer.
I guess one of the things I would ask is that surely do prioritize. I don't want to spend just because of the fact that we have it.
So, yeah, so is this out of your, where is this out of the facilities budget?
This would come out of you, correct?
So, one thing too is, not that Rick meant this, but it'd be interesting to know if you had a choice between the 2A handhelds, the plow, the boiler, carpet, and fence, what you would prioritize under your
Or a
budget.
pool that we're
Yeah, right.
short on funds now that we haven't sold the building.
I mean, it would be, I'm just thinking that too, because, not that, yeah.
Well, we have 2 meetings left this month, so my hope was to get your guys' feel, which I am, getting your feel for where you feel like you're at on these projects. And so I'm not going to spend more than we have on anything that we have, and I'd come back next week so that we would be prepared to do whatever we needed to do in the month of June, so that could fall under this fiscal year. I don't think we're going to be able to do all of these things, but I definitely want to hear your ideas about them.
I guess on what Chris said, maybe take all these items that you presented us tonight, just prioritize them for us, but also add in the 2 other boilers at Lake to Noon, how that would be prioritized, and any roof sections that because those are typically what we get a lot of, is roof sections. Do you have any in the district that would be higher priority roof sections than any of these items?
Just a macro picture, and I appreciate that comment, but all of next summer, not this summer's capital budget is dedicated towards the pool, 400,000, and then potentially the radios on top of that. Next summer would be all Lake to Noon roof, and after that, there are no other roofs that are due, so we're sitting in pretty good shape. My fear is we'll have asphalt after all these projects that we'll be coming back to potentially next summer as well. So these are a little bit smaller expenditures versus a $600,000 roof section at Lake to Noon.
So you took some of the words out of my mouth with the asphalt. So I guess, like they said, prioritize what's in your thing, look at it, but then before you go through that, look at it more in a macro sense from the district standpoint of, okay, if he's got to say 150,000 in his budget that we could roll in the fund balance and then use it for some of these other ones that are coming forward, like the parking lot that is getting crushed through the construction traffic, or towards, I know it's not going to cover it, but towards it, which is more important. So I'm not going to tell you what to do on that, but I just want you guys to look at that lens.
Well, and one of the things to keep in mind too is with rolling money into fund balance and then using it next year does have an impact on our levy.
I understand that,
So
yeah.
that's one thing, but also we do have the 10-year maintenance plan where we're starting to look at and prioritize. And one of the things that we're trying to focus on is getting money, if there is some additional money that we, obviously we want to take some of the things off the capital projects plan when we can and some of these smaller dollar amounts and all that, but then putting money into Fund 46, because that gives us the ability to do some of those bigger projects all at once.
Sure.
And so managing all of those thoughts, and that's something that we are looking at as we kind of go through all the different expenditures.
What I think you're saying is that, let's just say, for instance, Jeremiah had $100,000 left. We'd be better off putting that into 46 than to roll it over into fund balance for a later project.
Conceptually, yes. unless there are needs now, because
No, I
146
understand.
we
I'm
still
saying-
can't use until 2020.
No, I
So,
understand.
But yes, yeah, that would be
Yeah.
an accurate statement.
What would, so with that, what would, so dollars left over from the referendum?
Dollars left over,
Yeah, what do we do with it?
Spend or defease.
you spend or you pay down debt.
Okay.
Those are our only two options. But you have to
You
keep
can
in mind too that 2 million of the referendum projects are budgeted to come out of fund balance. So
At
if
what
there is
point do
money
we-
left over, it would just be money that would not come out of fund balance.
At what point do we refund? Oh, that's that line again, like,
You almost never do,
Because
because it's like
it's like
20
pennies
cents.
or-
It's like,
yeah.
it's so insignificant, so.
So we would just defease it and, right, I mean, that would generally be it, right? We would just pay debt?
Well,
and then,
but she said something that's very important. $2 million of what we're putting into our referendum project is coming out of fund balance.
Right, we're not gonna be 2 million.
And I don't think we're gonna have $2 million
Okay.
I can
left
tell you
at
that
the
we're
end.
not.
So, and we're also gonna be very close to operating level with our fund balance. So we may want to,
reduce the fund balance, yeah, okay, yeah, that's fine. Just,
leave the fund balance and use the referendum
Which-
money for the referendum.
right, and which, yeah, right, and, but all this kind of paints the picture too on if we're going to spend anything that, or if we're debating on here, you know, if that couple 100,000 or 80,000 here for this or that, I mean, may help us by not spending it, and, or it's less out of fund balance than that we're paying for the Muskego Lakes, right? So,
I see what you're saying.
I'm trying, yeah, maybe I'm not,
Yep, I see what you're saying.
yeah, we don't know, right, so the big picture is before I spend more.
Well, we're just talking about spending what we have allocated, and so I think it's important to also keep in mind is even though we have money to support the referendum, and we're working on these projects, we still have a capital budget that we should continue working through, so that we don't end up with projects stacked into the future. So if there are things that we can knock out here, with funds that are already budgeted, where we know they won't increase the levy, I think that's important.
But I think it comes back to what Rick asked is prioritize.
Just look at it globally.
Because you know what, if there's a $150,000 or a $400,000 project that's number one on our list, well, maybe it's worth putting 150 into 46 and doing that project in 2020 or whatever, instead of these little ones that might be way down. But again, that's up to Jeremiah to bring that back to us and.
And I honestly, I wouldn't bring anything forward to you guys that I didn't feel like, if carpets are rolling and boilers are broken and we need to remove snow, I need to bring it forward.
I don't think we're questioning
We're not
that.
questioning that, so don't take it that way. I just want to make sure that.
I think these are all
sometimes you can get-
legitimate projects, it's just a matter of, we want to make sure they're prioritized correctly in your mind, and then relay that to us, so we could feel comfortable saying, yes, Jeremiah said these are our top priorities, this is what we need to do, and we agree with him, so we're all on the same page.
Julie, I had a quick question for you. How much do we have left in contingency roughly?
600.
How much, 600?
About 600,000.
No, is that counting the 2 million we were planning on taking out of?
No.
No, okay. So if we use up the contingency, then we jump into the 2 million we...
Into the fund balance.
We have, let me put it this way, we are planning right now to spend 1.4 million of fund balance, if that makes sense.
Okay,
All right, so 600,000 of contingency still remaining. If we didn't spend it, it would stay in fund balance.
okay, so the
Does that make
contingency is basically coming out of the
We're
fund balance?
planning on spending the whole budget minus 600,000 of contingency. that is-
Including that 2 million.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
With that said,
Exactly.
there could be other contingencies between now and
Yes.
occupancy.
Yeah,
There will be.
yeah.
I know a $25,000 one right now, you know. All right, fence. Are you on the fence on this one?
So more than anything,
I got it.
for all the people that come to our complex, aside from the fact that they stand and haven't had bathrooms to use, they always complain about the fencing. So we got pricing together for fences, and as you can see, I only took 4 pictures, but you guys can walk the site yourselves and see the conditions of the fence around the stadium. Most of the fences in our entire athletic department were replaced in 2003, 2004, 2005 when we did the renovations and expansions. So they are original fencing, over 30 years old. A lot are rusted or heaving. So we would propose connecting it with the concession stand fencing, which was installed black. The new bleachers have that black galvanized fence going all the way around the edges of that as well. So pricing for that century fence, one for the entire thing, the inner bowl of the track, the outer fencing, which leads all the way to the high school parking lot, and then wraps all the way around for $76,177.
We're hoping that no one stands on the interior fencing anymore.
They still will. You know they will, because they
But
just.
they can't complain there's no seats.
No, but some people like doing that, so. Any feedback?
Put it in the priority list and we'll go from there.
All right, Tony.
Thank you.
You're up.
So, as we've done in the past, this will be now I believe our 6th year of our one-to-one process, and also the funding process that is identical and around it. So, mentioned in the paragraphs here, I'll just quickly go over them again, that our goal is to again find the most appropriate device for use by our students. We do quite a bit of testing around that, both student testing, staff testing, and getting input from our various vendors about what to use. Big changes coming on Chromebooks this year. Doesn't seem like much, but it's all switching over to the USB-C connection. So first on your MacBook, you have a USB-C connection, which serves as both power and data at the same time. Very nice setup, but because of that change, we're seeing a pretty significant rise in the cost of all Chromebooks, and that's across various vendors. So that's a nice thing, and again, that means one power cord could service all. That is increasing somewhere else.
Unheard of too, right? Like, what laptop could have a universal power cord? It's like,
And some phones have it.
every year they're different.
So,
This little flat phone.
yeah. So at the end of the day, that's just one piece. We're looking again to once again benefit from the work and opportunities that come from the BMIT Tech Center students repairing devices. They don't repair all of them. They repair as needed and when available. That's a good experience for them. We even had students who were joining TRA, which is the company that provides warranty service for our devices, to get somewhat of an internship, a paid internship at their area in Mount Falls. And so they actually are getting paid to do higher level repair service, and that came from some of their pre-service work that was happening here at high school. Another opportunity, of course, is that when we do the leasing, we do competitive bidding process for that as well. We want to keep our interest rates as low as possible. They are still pretty low overall, and we'll be getting that information as we continue. So this is kind of that precursory information that we're looking for. The amount of $750,000. Our terms have been 3 years. Originally started at 4. 3-year terms, and of course there would be a zero equity. And what that means is we of course own the devices and the items at the end of that piece. So the other piece is that we do want to ideally be in a state where we're not asking for leasing, and that is on our prospectus to do that going forward. Right now, it's still not 100% possible through our budget, so we haven't won leases. So that's kind of the general overview. You may have some questions, and maybe I'll open up to that this way.
So this is out of your technology budget?
Correct, as always. Thank you.
So we've done this not to exceed amount in the past, so.
Yes.
All right, any questions? Same, all right. Moving on to information follow-up, project updates, there's a list there.
Okay, so I think one piece that we want to draw your attention to is in the 5th area, the transitioning schools. Reminder of some community open houses, the family mixer, that's actually this week. But Jeff has a summary of something that we were really concerned about way in the beginning when we were making those changes in boundary lines. And so what would that do for parents who are interested in inter-district transfers and things like that? So he can summarize this for you.
Yeah, so we had between our in-district families and open enrollment families, we had 124 requests of where they would like their students to go to school next year. And we sent letters out to all 124 families on May 1st, and happy and excited to say that we approved all 124 requests. That was important, of course, with the timing, with building out schedules and staffing to be able to make this happen. But got a lot of really positive feedback from families with the fact that we were honoring their requests. So, just great news to share.
And how are we handling transportation? Parents have to drop off, or are we allowing busing if they can get to a busing point?
So right now, many of those families that made the request know that they are providing transportation themselves. Some families have been working with Lamers, such as what has happened historically in our district, to have their students be picked up at a daycare provider on a different route that's in that school that they requested the transfer for. So it's similar to what we've done in the past.
Parents can request a stop and say, if I can get my kid there, will you?
So if I could take my kids to Jeff's, they'll
As
pick them
long
up
as
at
there's
Jeff's.
space for the students that are currently scheduled to ride the bus, we will always allow
So we're
that.
basically doing all the accommodations we can, short of actually sending a bus to the other side of the city. Very good, thank you.
So I just want to make sure I understand the document that you put in for the transfers. So like this, for line 1 for 5th grade, Muskego Lakes to Lake Dune and Lake Dune to Muskego, that was like a swap?
It was an even swap for number of students.
Okay, just want to make sure, but boy, when you get to the older ages, there's definitely
Yeah,
they want to stay with their friends.
it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
That they want to spend the last 2 years of middle school with the friends that they've become acquainted with.
The license are usually good for 10 years, 24.
Any other questions with regards to that?
All right. You two are aware of tours that go on to the schools on Tuesdays and Thursdays? Or? All right. I have a question on the personnel information. Memorandum in there. Let's get it pulled up. Too many tabs open.
There's 2 listed there.
Under the 18-19 curricular staffing fall athletics high school list, what is visual support for cross-country? What is that?
Blind student who runs this?
Correct.
What?
We have a blind student who runs.
Okay, perfect. I didn't know what that was. All right. Anyone else have any requests for information follow-up to be brought back?
Real briefly, Tony, how are we doing on the fiber?
Yeah, great. Thanks for asking. Yeah, it's a brief update. The conduit is nearly all on the ground. We're about 90% of the way. They're now putting, the point where they're putting in cabling, fiber. But they have to do what's called pre-acceptance testing, and that is to make sure that the fiber is free of any errors or issues. That could be from manufacturing, shipping, even the partial installation. But before any of that gets put into the conduit, they do that testing, which is great. So that way we don't run in and also try to test some issues. So we have a run that is about 4,000 feet, starting from Muskego Lakes. We have another run starting here at district office, heading to Racine, so not a huge run. And then the next step is, once that cable is accepted, or reaches acceptance, and passes that pre-acceptance test, we can get into the ground and start that main run, which of course, for us, it's to make sure that we get connectivity to our middle school as soon as possible. So that is on target. And the rest of the cabling is all here. We're just waiting for, again, those pre-acceptance testing, and they'll continue to run that throughout. To give you an idea how fast that can go, about a mile and a half per day is what they're able to run in terms of pulling the cable. That might be a bit modest, but that's what they've stated. So they can move really quickly if they start doing it. But I think May 14th, so about a week from now, is when they anticipate to have that pre-acceptance of all remaining cable, so they can put that back in the ground. So our main run that we have conduit left for is Racine Avenue, or excuse me, Racine County, and that will be the run to Lakeview. So we're at the county line, and we're still waiting on some permitting there, so it should be coming soon. If that was too much information.
All right.
Kelly, on the note of the transitioning schools and such, what is the district's plan on the memorabilia of the places that are not in existence anymore. So, you know, like at Country Meadows, how we got the blue ribbon flag and all that stuff. Where is that stuff gonna go? Like Mosquito L got a blue ribbon. Where is the memorabilia gonna go, or is there some sort of?
Have you guys talked about that?
Yeah, so the administrators are working with staffs and some of the parents to talk about what are some of those key items that are most significant to that school population. They're going to go to where those schools are merging to. So they would like to create like some type of artifact display in order to keep some of that history of our system in place. So I don't know if all of the items that they're talking about transition have been identified yet, but during our emerging meetings, we've talked with those principals to identify what those are.
So I was just curious if maybe you've been talking to like the, you know, Mosquito Historical Society or something, if they would want to be included in
Some of the other items that aren't being brought over.
You know, just to keep the history in place and not use that in the transition.
Yeah, my next meeting with the administrators is next week. And certainly can bring that forward, we'll add it to the agenda. Thank you.
Chairman, just a quick question on project update. Where are we with the city approvals on the turf?
I got an email today that, so about a week ago, we were able to submit a response to their first questions.
Yeah.
They got back to us in 4 days, and then the guy that was the reviewer was off on vacation. So he got back today and was settling in for his next round of review. So if they don't have any more questions for us, we should be able to get the permit.
What's ideally, when did you?
Well, we plan to break ground on the 23rd of May, so
Okay.
we really need to, in order to get the subsequent permits, we need to get that one squared away.
And how much time do you need for the other permits?
Hopefully those should come rather quickly from what we hear.
Those through the city or those?
No, one's through the states, I believe the city and art.
Okay.
And then there's another city building permit that we have to get, but we can't get to the building permit until they approve upon the signs. So, okay.
All right, thank you. Could I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are opposed, or we are adjourned
Got
at
it all?
9:36.